Picture the scene. Monday morning, 2026, you're heading to work, traffic is brutal, gas prices are insane, and out of nowhere that little yellow light pops up on the dashboard. The check engine light, that crooked little engine symbol staring at you like a bug on the windshield. You take a deep breath, stop by a parts store, plug in a $20 OBD2 scanner, and there it is. The code that ruins any driver's weekend. P0420. Catalyst system efficiency below threshold. You take it to the dealership, and the guy in the clean uniform, clipboard in hand, looks at you with that rehearsed surgeon delivering bad news face and drops the number, $2,000. In some cases, $2,500, $3,000. New catalytic converter, labor, sensors, gasket, hardware, coffee, the works. And you walk out of there thinking the car just died on you. Sit tight, because today we're going to have a real conversation about this code. A real one. No internet magic tricks that wreck engines. Before anything else, I want to be crystal clear. This video is educational information. I'm not in your garage. I'm not looking at your car. I don't know the service history of your engine. What I'm sharing is what an honest mechanic would explain to you if you were lucky enough to know one. Find a trustworthy professional, get a second opinion, and be very suspicious of anyone, online or at the shop, who guarantees there's a miracle $3 fix that solves every problem on every car. That doesn't exist. What exists is a proper diagnosis. Let's break this down. What is a catalytic converter, physically? The catalytic converter is that stainless steel cylinder that sits underneath your car, in the middle of the exhaust, between the manifold and the muffler. Inside, it has a ceramic structure shaped like a honeycomb, thousands of tiny parallel channels, and that ceramic is coated with an incredibly thin layer of precious metals, platinum, palladium, and rhodium. Those three metals act as chemical catalysts. That's where the name comes from. They aren't consumed in the reaction, they just facilitate it. When the exhaust gas passes through there at 1300, 1500 degrees Fahrenheit, those metals break down the toxic molecules. Carbon monoxide becomes carbon dioxide, unburned hydrocarbons finish burning, and nitrogen oxides split back into nitrogen and oxygen. This equipment is expensive because platinum and rhodium are rare. Rhodium has actually been worth more than gold in recent years. That's why thieves saw these things off in parking lots. That's why the dealership charges a fortune. Now here's the part nobody tells you when they hand you the estimate. The P0420 code does not mean the catalytic converter is dead. It does not mean that. Not in any way. The P0420 code literally means, translating the technical specification, that the rear oxygen sensor, the one located after the catalytic converter, is reading an oxygen signal that's too similar to the front sensor, the one located before the cat. That's it. The computer compared the two signals, saw they looked too much alike, and concluded the catalytic converter isn't doing its job. Logical conclusion from the computer. But there are several reasons those two sensors might be reading the same way, and most of them have nothing to do with replacing the entire catalytic converter. I'm going to list the real causes of P0420 in order from cheapest to most expensive, because that's what an honest mechanic would do before pushing a $2,000 part on you. Cause number one, and probably the most common in older cars, lazy oxygen sensor. Oxygen sensors have a lifespan, usually between 60,000 and 100,000 miles. After that, they start responding slowly, the signal goes flat, and the computer reads that as a catalyst failure. A new rear oxygen sensor, depending on the car, costs between $50 and $150. Labor to install, another $50 to $100. Problem solved in many cases. Before spending $2,000, it's worth trying a $100 sensor. Cause number two, exhaust leak before the catalytic converter or between the two sensors, a dried out gasket, a small crack in the manifold, a loose bolt. False air enters the system, the extra oxygen confuses the sensors, and the P0420 code fires. Solution, tighten the bolt, replace the gasket, weld the crack, $50 to $200. Cause number three, undetected misfire or rough idle. When the engine misfires, unburned fuel ends up inside the catalytic converter. That fuel burns inside the honeycomb at an extremely high temperature and, over time, can actually melt the ceramic substrate. But the root cause is the ignition system. Spark plugs, coil packs, plug wires, $150 to $400. Fix the problem before it destroys the expensive part. Cause number four, rich fuel mixture. Clogged air filter, dirty mass airflow sensor, stuck EGR valve, leaking fuel injector. All of that dumps too much fuel into the engine, overloads the catalytic converter, and triggers the code. A professional fuel injector cleaning runs between $150 and $300. MAF sensor cleaning with the proper electronics cleaner, $15. Cause number 5, thermostat stuck open. The engine never reaches proper operating temperature, combustion runs dirty, the catalytic converter suffers. New thermostat, $40. Cause number 6, and this one really is a nightmare, the catalytic converter truly is clogged or contaminated. Then yes, you need a new catalytic converter. But here's the kicker. In the vast majority of those cases, you don't need the complete dealership assembly for $2,000. You can buy a universal catback unit, EPA compliant, CARB compliant if you live in California, and have it welded in by a good independent exhaust shop. Total cost, labor included, between $300 and $700 versus $2,000 at the dealership. Are you seeing the math of the extortion? The dealership isn't ripping you off because the catalytic converter is expensive. The dealership is ripping you off because they sell the entire factory exhaust assembly with the OEM logo stamped on it, plus their shop labor rate that's twice what an independent shop charges, plus a markup on every bolt and clamp. And they do this because they count on your panic. You need to pass the emissions test, you need the car to get to work, you don't know another mechanic, and the guy in the clean uniform is leaning on you. Now, before I wrap up, I have to talk about something that's been circulating online for years, and that came back strong in 2026. The famous solvent trick, lacquer thinner in the tank, special thinner, acetone in the gas, all that stuff. The story is always the same. Pour 1 gallon of lacquer thinner for every 10 gallons of gasoline, hit the highway at 3,000 RPM, and the catalytic converter will clean itself out. I'm going to tell you, mechanic to friend, don't do it. Don't do it under any circumstances. Lacquer thinner was not formulated to be burned inside a modern internal combustion engine. It attacks the rubber in the fuel lines, drying them out and cracking them. It can damage the diaphragm in the fuel pump, especially the in-tank pumps that most modern cars use. It can permanently contaminate the oxygen sensors, which are exactly the parts giving you the problem in the first place. It burns at such a high temperature that it can cause detonation, that metallic pinging in the engine that means combustion is firing at the wrong time, and prolonged detonation breaks pistons, breaks rings, blows head gaskets. A head gasket job starts at $1,000. You save $2,000 just to spend $1,000 on a problem you created yourself. If you want to do a real chemical cleaning of your combustion system, use a product formulated for it. Tank additives from serious brands based on PEA, polyethylamine, are designed to burn cleanly in the engine. They remove carbon from the fuel injectors, intake valves, combustion chamber, and they don't attack rubber. Look for Techron BG44K Redline SI1. They cost between $15 and $30 a bottle. Use one every 6,000 to 10,000 miles. Combine that with a good highway run, 40 to 50 miles in a lower gear at higher RPM, around 3,000 RPM, to really heat up the catalytic converter and the entire engine. The Italians call this an Italian tune-up. It's free, it's safe, and it works to keep the system clean. It's not magic, it won't unclog a truly burned out catalytic converter, but it prevents a lot of problems. Summing up the practical step-by-step for anyone with P0420 lit up on the dashboard right now. First, write down the exact code and check if there are other codes alongside it. If there's a misfire code, P300 through P308, fix the ignition first. Second, ask a trustworthy mechanic to do a sensor test with a scanner that shows the live graphs of both oxygen sensors in real time. The front sensor should oscillate quickly, the rear one should stay nearly flat. If the rear is oscillating along with the front, it's the catalytic converter or the rear sensor. If the front is slow, it's the front sensor. Third, visual and auditory inspection of the exhaust looking for leaks. Fourth, only after all that consider replacing parts. And if it really is the catalytic converter, get at least 3 quotes, one of them from an independent exhaust shop with a universal EPA compliant unit. And this is where I ask a favor from you. If this information saved you a sleepless night, drop a like on the video, because the algorithm has been burying real technical content in favor of dealership advertising. Comment below with the last absurd quote a Stealership tried to put on your bill. I want to read them case by case. And subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because next week I'm bringing you the truth about sealed for life automatic transmission fluids, which are not sealed, which are not for life, and which are killing transmissions on honest drivers all over the country. Take care of your car with information, not with panic, not with internet tricks, and not with a blank check to the dealership. See you next.